Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I can see a few faces, because there's a few little squares there I can see of people on beaches, which looks nice. But yeah, like I say, thank you for joining us today. We've got people from Australia, New Zealand, all over the place, which is cool. So my name is Sean Fallon. I'm the resources consultant for Bookery, but we're not here to talk about Bookery today. We're here to talk about the dynamic placement test from ClarityEnglish. So I'm being joined by two experts on that, Adrian and Puyi, and they're going to take it away. So two bits of housekeeping. One, we're recording this session. So if you have to duck out for anything or you're watching this and you think to yourself, oh, I know someone who's going to love this, no problem. We'll make the recording available afterwards. And also, if you have any questions, just pop them in the group chat, and at the end I can ask them for you. So yeah, without further ado, Clarity, take it away.
Okay. So let me start sharing the screen, Adrian.
Okay, so yes, as Sean says, a very warm welcome to everybody. We thought we'd just take a couple of minutes to let you know about Clarity, where we are, and set the stage for why we want to do placement testing, and then take you through the dynamic placement test, how it works, what you get out of it, what your students will see, and then at the end a little case study, one of the ways in which one school is using it, and then we can throw open to any questions and answers. So without further ado, Clarity is, we're based in Hong Kong, and we do software for teaching and testing English, which we have for very many years. We've worked with Bookery for a good many years. Here's a slide which is a picture of some of our team coming up. Thank you. This was taken a couple of years ago at our 25th anniversary, and there's I don't think there's any Kiwis in that picture, but there's a couple from Australia from Bookery, and partners from Asia and Europe. So that's a little bit about Clarity. And now the next thing I wanted to talk about was placement testing. Some of it's obvious why you want to place students, you want to put them in the right class. But there's a very splendid bit of research that was done in America. The QR code here does point at a riveting research document. I can never remember the title, but it's all about community colleges and looking at what the factors are that let people succeed. And so their goal was to say, at the end of a course, will you get a CEFR level B2? That was just the metric they used for this test. And so they simply looked at students. What are the factors in that success? And the first one, they simply looked, if you've got no support whatsoever, only 8% of people who took this course achieved the goal of getting a CEFR B2. If you improved things a bit and gave people some initial support, maybe a tour around a self-access centre, or letting people know what resources there are available, then that jumps to 29%. People get a good start. If you take that up another level, and this was all done in America, so obviously, like Australia, native speaker support there's a lot of it, and that jumps again. But this is not a teacher, this is just simply a native speaker. So if you add in a trained teacher who's available throughout the course, not necessarily teaching, but available to the students throughout the course, then it jumps to 62%. So you're now getting much better. But the final factor, and for us the most interesting, is that if at the beginning of the course there was a placement that put you into the correct level and therefore made the right support materials available to you, whether that was a teacher in a class or just support materials, it jumps to 81%. So the value of the placement test is in saying, look, I know where I want to go, but where am I starting from? And so really that's what we're hoping to do with the dynamic placement test, is give you the ability to quickly and easily find that starting point. So let me now hand over to Puyi, who can talk us through the placement test.
Yeah, thank you, Adrian, for sharing why placement test is important. So we come to the point that which placement test should be chosen. And today we will tell you about the dynamic placement test and why we say that it is instant, accurate, and reliable. The test is a 30 minutes adaptive online placement test. It works on all devices, desktop, tablet, and mobile. It is focused on language element, listening, and reading. And the result, it will give you CEFL level with a relative numeric. So if you have 30 students all in B1, you will have a number to tell you who is better. And you can also download a certificate from the admin panel. And you can see here the certificate. And we got different templates for you to choose from. And you can see here, there is a cross-reference. So you can cross-reference the CEFL level with other proficiency tests like IELTS, TOEFL. And here you see a little triangle. And this will tell you the relative strengths of the test taker in these three areas: the language elements, listening, and reading. And the content. And we are lucky enough to partner with TAL, a part of German Ministry of Education. It is a government body and was set up 50 years ago to specialize in language testing. Obviously, Germany is at the very heart of European Union, so they operate around the CEFL, which is perfect, and they have all the analytical skills and tools required to validate the questions. When developing the test, we identify a few key areas we need to think about: the test structure and the question types, and security, and also ongoing improvement. So let's talk about the test structure first. This test has two distinguished parts. There are two sections, the gauge and the track. The gauge has between 10 to 25 questions that range from easy to difficult. How you answer these sections will determine which track you go in. You will go in A, B, or C track. And this test is adaptive, means that the level of difficulties is adjusted based on the response provided. If a student gives a wrong answer, the computer will follow with an easier questions. If the student answers the questions correctly, the next question will be more difficult. And then when you are in the track, the questions will be fine-tuned and figure out you to exact CEFL level. And it will also tell you where in that level you are in. And we will see the question types and the test structure. A lot of publishers have simply taken their paper-based tests and computerized. The first thing we decided was that we are not going to do that. We want to devise questions that require deeper engagement with the language. So you can see two examples here: rearranging a sentence, ordering a dialogue. I can tell you this is very important. I met an English teacher in Taiwan University. She told me her student went to take TOEFL, and that student knew that by simply answer all the multiple choice questions with C, answer C, she can get the point she needs. And with the questions in dynamic placement tests, I believe the students can hardly do that. So we will talk about security. security is a concern, it is right to put anti-cheating measure in place. Now, let's start with how people cheat. There are three basic ways: Googling, copying, and others. As an online test, the first concern is that the student will look up the answer on internet. But think about the questions we just looked into earlier. How on earth would you look it up on Google? So the nature of the questions to a large extent prevent Googling. And the questions in both the gauge and the track are totally randomized. So if you and I are sitting next to each other, we'll have a total different set of questions. And because the test is adaptive, this increases the level of randomization and basically makes sure that copying the people next to you is impossible. And finally, we will look into a cheating case. Years ago, we won a 500 test at a university in Mexico. All testing was successful, but we find one anomaly. There was a case, one student trying to cheat, and this student tried to look into the test with two separate devices and change his answer. Unfortunately for him, our support team was alert about the error, and we contacted administration, and the student was caught and penalized. And of course, we have upgraded the test, and no one can do so anymore. And it leads us to the last point, how the test is maintained and enhanced. Every 3 months, we send off the data from thousands of tests to TAL in Germany. They run the test through their test and analyze program and find any questions that are not working properly. These questions can be adapted and then tried for another 3 months. And then we analyze it again and again. And there are other more macro findings that lead us to look at the test as a whole. For example, we are currently studying whether we are able to accurately discriminate between C1 and C2. Many CEFR descriptors are the same for both levels. It's maybe better simply to have C-band at the top level, but we have to further investigate. And fairness, does it make any difference to the score whether the student does the test on a desktop, computer, or mobile? We have data to check that out, and we are pretty confident that it is actually doesn't make a difference. And lastly, we also look into culture and other L1 data. And we are interested to know whether a test taker culture or first language has any influence on their score. But that, as they say, there are a whole other story. So we are not going to talk about this today. And lastly, I want to share with you about this page. We just do it. This is, we call it a resources bank. You can see here, there are lots of videos and blogs to talk about the definition of the test, the test background, its theory, and there are also videos that tell you about how you can set up the test, and some case study is here. Before I pass it over to Adrian to talk about case study, I would like you to take away 3 words about these tests. Instant. You can use all devices, easily set up, and the result and the certificate can be downloaded from the admin panel instantly. And the second word, accurate, as I have told you about the test structure, the type of questions, and security. Together with TAL, we are constantly checking and improving the test. And last word, reliable. We got the whole team of account service. We got Bookery here. We got the support team here. And we have reliable infrastructure for the test. And there are lots of universities and also cases, projects have proven it. It is reliable. So, Adrian, that's I'm done. So back over to you.
Okay, thanks for taking us through that, Hui. So it's all very well and good, sort of looking at how the test is constructed, built together, and trying to convince you that it's reliable. it also matters how you use it, how easy it is to use. And so there are a number of case studies, but we picked one that seems quite common with some of our other New Zealand, Australia customers. In particular, I'm thinking of St. Peter's School in Cambridge, I think. They do something very similar to this. So, but this comes from the UK, and IELTS is used just like you as the university acceptance test, and of course IELTS is completely shut down. I guess it's opening up a bit now, but when this was done a couple of months ago, the university suddenly found that they were relying on IELTS exams results which were not coming in, and they had no idea whether students would be able to attend the university or not. So as a sort of emergency measure, they look to have a quick go with the dynamic placement test to at least get a rough idea of the student's CEFR level, to see whether they would be able to cope if they did arrive. And so they, in this image, you can see an administrator running the admin panel. And so the placement test is obviously what test takers see. You do that on your phone, desktop, laptop, Chromebook, whatever. But there's a whole other admin panel where you add people one by one, or you import thousands of names, and you schedule a test for them. You say, will they do the test using instructional language in Chinese or Arabic or Thai or Japanese or obviously English. And so most of these, 99% of these students for Brunel were coming from China, from mainland China, which also has extra issues of online testing because of the Great Firewall. And so they thought, well, let's see if we can do it with the dynamic placement test. And so they set up, I think, using an import, because there was something like sort of 40 or 50 students that they needed to work with. They imported their names, their email addresses. That the system then sent out an email to each of the people with a link to get into the test. Now, because, I mean, Brunel was replacing what is a very high stakes test with a placement test, which generally isn't. They wanted to add in some invigilation, and Atlas in the UK came up with a very simple idea of I would be sitting here facing my computer that I was doing the test on, and behind me I'd put my phone with a Zoom meeting video so that an invigilator in London could watch me taking the test. Now, of course, it's not a total invigilation, and who knows whether there's someone here who's looking at the questions and whispering answers, but it was a way that they felt very comfortable with. And so, you know, the test is very quick. It went through very quickly. It went through very smoothly. They did find that there were issues with people's internet connection in China, but the placement test was always designed with the idea of at least intermittent internet, because people are going to be doing it on their phone. Even if they've got brilliant 5G, they're still going to be moving in and out of connection. So the test can keep going. If you download it all at the beginning, you can keep going with no internet at all until you get to the end. And so another example is a university in Indonesia where they wanted everybody to come into one hall, 1,000 people, maybe it was a couple of halls. So everybody downloaded the test on their phone before they started. They were only allowed into the exam room if they could show the phone and show the starting screen. Once they were in there, an access code was given and they all started the test. There was no internet whatsoever. Then at the end, people left, and as soon as they got back into some kind of internet connection, all the answers were uploaded. And so that was smooth. And so in China, basically the same thing happened. People used the offline version. It may have even taken an hour to load before they started. But once they had started the test, it was all smooth. So that's one of the case studies. And as I said, St. Peter's School, where they have students coming from Thailand, China, Malaysia, they always want to run a placement test before the student arrives, so they get an impression of what they're going to have to deal with in terms of English support. They usually add 1-2 students a week. There's a little quick test option. They just type in the student's name, email, and a test is immediately created. That's all that they have to think about. And they get an email with the result. As Puyi said, I'm not sure if I don't think they use certificates, but some people like them. So that's a quick case study. And I think really now what we're interested in is the sort of questions you have, the ways that you think you might use it. Will it work in your circumstance? So can everybody, so I think Sean suggested we do questions through the chat room, and he will ask them. If this isn't working for you, then do sort of use Zoom to put up your hand or shout or do a little dance or something.
We do have a question here. So what measures of validity do you have of this test for academic contexts?
So what we've done with the test, all the test construct, validity, the questions about reliability are all handled by TELC. As Puyi said, they're a very respected and long-standing test provider. So they ran all the initial validity tests and measures, all the statistics, against their existing CEFR tests. So they run tests at a specific level, so that you will do a 2-hour test to see if you are CEFR B2. And they run them in different languages across all of Europe. So they've got a lot of data to handle with. And so they could bring our test results in, get their sample students to do both tests, and that did the validity, and that's what got us going. And now we can keep running a more item level statistical analysis against new items that we introduce into the test on a sort of constant basis to make sure that it still works like that.
Well, thank you. And you've also shared a link here for validity of PDF. So yeah, Jason, grab that. Another question here. What research do you have available about the test?
So at the moment, nobody has run an official third-party large-scale test. There are 2 universities in Taiwan, Wenzhou Ursuline University in Kaohsiung, who have run a smaller scale test. So last October, they tested 2,000, somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 students who were split into 2 groups. It was a sort of like they have a school linked to the university, and then they have university students. And one of the teachers ran a full statistical analysis. They were mostly comparing it against a Taiwanese exam called CSEPT, which the main Taiwan testing organization runs across the island. It's CFR aligned, but and she also did some analysis against TOEFL IBT, because they always have that But it's a very different ball game, that one. So those not so clear cut. That's the main academic research so far.
And we also have a standard setting. Last year in May in Hong Kong, we invite like around 20-something different professions in this area come to Hong Kong for 2 days. We hold them in a room for 2 days in Hong Kong, and then they have to study with the help from TAL. Together, they review all the questions in, and then one by one. I can also share videos. So just tell you more about what had happened on those 2 days. Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah. Are there any questions about operation side, or how you want to like run the test, do the test?
Here's one. How much does it cost?
That's your question.
That's me.
My
Yeah.
questions.
Okay, so that's I'm the person you have to ask about that one. So after this, I'll make sure that everyone in the who came and everyone who RSVP'd, I'll send the brochure with the price list on it. I'll just sort all that out, and you can go from there. And also as well, I mean, I think some of you have already done it, but obviously feel free to get in touch in terms of actually trialing the program, because we're always happy to set that up. It's one thing, I guess, to hear about it and to see it in operation, but to actually have a bit of a play with it, I definitely found that was really helpful for me when I first had a go of it. So yeah, definitely get in touch about that.
Have many people in the in this group had a look at it, had a go with it? Can anyone do the yes/no thing to see if?
So I will say yes. Oh yeah, because you can do it next to the. So Jason says no. I say yes, and that's it. I'd unmute everyone, but it might just be just a chorus of people just shouting yes and no.
Okay, so it's mostly no so far.
I think it's yeah, it will be a bit of a mix. Oh yeah, I can see down there. Yeah, no. Well, yeah, obviously, we can set you up with trials. That's no problem at all. Because, like I say, getting the hands-on experience is definitely much better. Any other questions? As you pop them in the chat, or you can pop your video on and raise your hand. I can let you know. Or
well, I've got another question then.
Excellent.
So again, are people mostly using an online placement test at the moment? You know, I mean, if you're getting students in from China, do you just rely on IELTS, or do you do anything else with them?
I'm going to unmute everyone now, so be cool.
Patrick, you can probably speak to this better than I can.
Okay, so again, we're talking about different things here. So if you're talking about straight placement into like an English language program, yeah, we do actually run other forms of testing. Obviously, you've got the other proficiency tests where it's direct entry into, you know, degree programs, you know, undergrad, postgrad, etc. So for us, yeah, again, it's a mixture of, at the moment, having to trial some online. So that's why I'm interested in this, because obviously, as we can't get any students into the country because borders are closed, obviously, we are having more students that are signing up online. So therefore, yeah, that's why I'm interested in this.
But yeah, that really, I mean, that's why the Brunel University thing started. They'd never talked to us before until they suddenly had to find some quick, cheap way of assessing potentially quite a lot of students with an online remote test.
And also that's probably why, again, yeah, I think Jason's just mentioned about the FSET. That's another kind of a freebie one that you can actually use online. They have I think like a 15-minute and 50-minute one.
We've used, yeah, I mean, we're looking at different options, right? We've used online tools in a mixture with like a writing task as well to measure proficiency, as well as short interviews, even using Zoom and stuff. But we're looking for something maybe a little bit more hands off.
Yes.
Yeah.
one stop shopping.
It can be a very effective sort of first stage or a filter or something as well. There's no writing in this, so
We still have to do that. Yeah.
But at least you sort of kind of know where you're starting from. So you guys are at Lincoln University, are you?
That's correct.
Yes.
So yeah, for us, that's an indication, obviously. Yeah, this is more of an indicator. But yeah, obviously writing is always important, because if people can't write, there's kind of an issue there. Yeah.
A quick question that popped into my head about the results when it spits out results. I know it gives the CEFR level, but does it give you any sort of like more, like, it's late in the day and I can't think, spliced results? Like kind of like a lexical rating, a grammatical rating, syntax, or any any sort of breakdown?
Breakdown in language elements, I suppose, is that? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a much rougher breakdown than that, but there is one. So basically, the test will look at listening, reading, and language elements, vocab, grammar, that sort of thing. And so it will break down your relative skills in those. We showed the certificate earlier with a little sort of Bermuda triangle on it. So you can see if somebody in the test is very much stronger at listening than otherwise. And there's a relative numeric, so you can see that if you, typically, most people will be either a B1 or a B2, or depending on your class. Most people are going to group together, and so then we just sort of split those into 20, just to try and make it easier for big groups. That's probably not so appropriate for you, but nothing, I'm afraid, breaks it down. I mean, at some point, we'd like to be able to say sort of, this is the CEFR can do statement that they demonstrated they can do, because that's how we do everything. Have you provided evidence that you can do this? But the thing is, it's such a short test. There's so little evidence that we're scared of dropping into the realm of this is completely statistically not
possible.
Oh yeah,
believable.
So how many questions are there, like in terms of what?
Well, it depends, because it is adaptive, and so the first stage you'll get between 10 and 20, and that is supposed to take about half the time of the test. And then in the second stage, you'll get, basically you get sort of two sets of reading, two sets of listening, two sets of language elements. And so you're going to be looking at sort of another 20, 30 questions. Obviously the C-level listenings are much longer. The A listenings are really short, and it'll be sort of a maybe picture matching based on what you've listened to.
Where does it kind of, like with the adaptive stuff, where does it start out? Just kind of middle, B1, B2-ish, and then, or does it start low?
No, we start low, and partly that's to also make sure that you get familiar with the type of items.
The format, kind of.
Exactly. So before you start the test, before the timer starts, there's a little sort of requirement section that make sure that your device can do everything, that your fingers are capable of dragging things around, that you understand what a sentence reordering is going to look like. And you have to get every question in that right. They're incredibly obvious questions. So that once you get through that, you've proved that you can do all the item types. But then basically, if you are a C track person, within a few minutes, you'll be up getting higher level questions. And if you are an A1 person, you're never going to see really tough stuff.
Okay, in terms of the listening, because I know that a lot of tests online, it's always a problem with kind of time lag and loading and all those kind of, again, now the really technical issues. And I do find that, again, a lot of people struggle with getting a decent listening working on their computer across, again, sometimes we're dealing with internet connections from multiple countries. So yeah, how do you address that?
We've put a lot of effort into this. As I said, the most robust solution is to download the test before you start. So it's an option that you can have, and it makes it quite a reasonably sized download, but because it's adaptive, we basically have to download enough items for you, no matter where you're going to go. But because of the randomization, it's once you sign in, we basically set not a path. We set all the possible questions you can get, and so that will download everything, and it just won't work until they're sort of all downloaded and verified. So then it's within your browser, whether the browser's on the phone or the desktop, that the MP3 file is now there, and it will play. If you're running in online mode, basically if the file that's downloaded is corrupt or hasn't downloaded, the play button you click it and it'll attempt to download again. And none of it is a 10-minute lecture. And so the problems that we have had, and it's been China where we've had most problems, people will have reported that they can listen to the first question, but the second question isn't there. And we think we've solved that about a month ago by verifying that the file isn't corrupt. It's completely possible for an MP3 to become corrupted, and that it's long enough. So that seems to be working now. So we have people running. The biggest countries where it's been used so far have been Indonesia, Mexico, Saudi, China. I mean, none of those have constant, good, reliable internet. So we think we've got that pretty well sussed. It's not going to be perfect.
Well, no, nothing is ever guaranteed, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we've tried to do with the administration tools is build it so that it becomes quickly. You can remedy it quickly if someone says, "Look, I just couldn't listen to a single thing," and in fact, we can prove to a certain extent that someone has listened to an audio or not. We can collect quite a lot of data on their devices and things. So we're in quite a good position to support you with that.
So what kind of file sizes are you looking at and downloading? I'm just
downloading. It's about 50 megabytes.
50 megs. Okay.
And now, if you run it without the download, it's going to be much smaller than that. 50 megabytes includes listings at A, B, and C tracks. So most people, obviously, most people never get the C track listenings.
Okay. Yeah, because part of the question I was asking around the research, it's more that I was just sort of getting a sense of if you've had, again, you've mentioned about some of the kind of data checking that's done through Germany, because I suppose it's just that whole research around placement testing and sort of kind of, in a sense, kind of like comparing yourself to how, I don't know, you've got like, there's Oxford have got their placement test. I mean, where do you see yourselves in position to that?
Well, obviously, we haven't got anywhere near the academic research done into the OUP test or CUP test places. At the moment, we are working with various universities to try and increase this, ideally outside the areas that we've worked in already. So the places where works. So as I said, Taiwan is probably had the most academic research because it's used most in universities there. In Mexico, there's been some work to look at the alignment with sort of the Mexican interpretation of CEFR, because the Ministry of Education there is, have they approved Equity? I can't remember how far that went, but certainly there was a project to get it onto an approved list, which involved a certain amount of local research. I mean, to a large extent, I guess we're saying that, you know, certainly at this stage, without a lot of third-party stuff, you know, look at the people who are behind the test, look at the other people who are using it, look at the fact that it's a placement test, and come to your conclusion about, is it going to be valid enough for you?
Is it, yeah, I mean, just regarding that point around validity one more time, is it more geared towards general proficiency or academic, like English use?
General, I would say.
Okay.
I mean, there are no specific academic
constructs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, academic, let's be honest, it's usually just in terms of task. I mean, you know, you could argue that there's not even really academic words unless you're getting technical words. So, yeah, it is really around the task.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
That was.
There's some great questions from Lincoln. Anyone else?
Yeah, someone else.
Sorry,
can
we
have a
just
go.
dominated
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Sorry, I always do that when I turn up.
Back to your beach, Patrick.
Yeah, well, hey, that's my happy place, eh?
Yeah.
Because it's so damn cold here at the moment. So I'd rather be at the beach rather than be freezing cold all the time.
No,
Yeah.
I agree. Let's see. Any other questions? Nothing in the chats. If not, I think we can wrap up.
Cool.
So, yeah. Okay.
Okay. No, it's great. Thanks for the session. Thanks for some good answers.
Cool.
You know,
Thank
you
you for your
satisfied a
time.
lot of things. That's good. That's good.
Okay. Well, hope you can. Everybody can give it a go if it sounds interesting. And thank you all for your time.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
And,
Yeah, and thanks,
I'll
Sean,
be
for
in touch
sorting out the hosting,
some
Bookery.
Cool.
Thanks,
There's a
everybody.
little plug for you guys.
Thanks very much.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one, everyone.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.